Okay, Assalamualaikum. Okay, everyone. Okay, I'm going to go to the chapter 8, muscular and skeletal system. All right, these are the pictures to show you how we have uh, several types of muscle. So if you look carefully, the biggest muscle is at the gluteus maximus. Tengok tu And of course, you will also see some of the important muscles that you see which play a very important role in our daily life. Right. Now we go to some of the fun facts. Okay. So basically, as you all know, even though if you look carefully, this right nowadays when people want to study about anatomy, okay, it is very very tedious and very detailed because our muscles comprise a lot of it, around more than how many hundred muscles, and they all move and they need support. So if you look at, for example, if you say hand, there are around 20 muscles. So in order to make you move one step, you need 200 muscles to use. So muscles can account for 40% of your body weight. Okay, and basically it only move in the sense of pulling. Right, it does not push. Okay, and then the smallest muscle found in your middle ear, the stapedius, strongest, the masseter, which is the chewing muscle. Sometimes you get your chewing when you're doing your chewing jams macam tu kan. So it's because something to do with your muscle sometimes. And then there are some muscles in the root of your hair that will only give you the goosebump. And then also to smile, it also requires muscle. And also to frown, means bila you kedut, mengerut je, banyak muscle kena guna. So, so the hardest working muscle is the one that is located at the eye. Alright, so this is where I mentioned just now. Okay, now in our lecture for regarding muscular and skeletal system. Now, after this chapter onwards until the end, these are the ones going to be included in your final exams. So please, so what are we going to look at in this lecture outline? Okay, we are going to look at the content of the syllabus for skeletal and muscular system. Three things that you need to look at. One is to identify types of skeleton. Okay, which comprise of hydroskeleton, exoskeleton, and endoskeleton. And then also you're going to go very deep, you zoom in, what is muscle is all about, how do they look like, okay, in terms of cell atoms ataupun dari segi tengok dari segi cell lah, cellular level ya. And then last but not least, how does the muscle contraction occur in physiological aspect ya. So three things sahaja, tapi nampak banyak, memang akan banyak sikit nanti, okay. So I managed to regroup back. Okay, so what we're going to look at, what are muscular and skeletal systems all about? So basically, they in medical sometimes they make it a short form as musculoskeletal system. Okay, what are the system involved? As you remember back, there are several types of tissues, organ, and cell. So these are the ones that we have to look at. They are comprised of bones, joints, muscles, and surrounding tissue, which are related to muscular and skeletal system. Alright, so basically, you have your bones, joints, and muscle. They are points for attachment. So when there's attachment means, what are they? Usually comprised of tendons and ligaments. Okay, mesti ada satu yang menghubungkan. So there are around 206 muscle in your adult human body. So they have points, which is the tendons and the ligaments, which are for the attachment for these three things just now. And what they do is basically to coordinate body movement. So what are the function of this muscular and skeletal system? Ada tiga ni. What are they? In order to create body shape and form, right? And then movement as well as support. So very, very important. So when there is a star on the slide means you have to read more than 3 times. What are they basically? Because pernah kalau exam, right? What are the functions of skeleton is basically to give framework. So that it's able to support the body and also to protect vital organ. Still remember, okay? And also to provide movable levels so that the muscle can pull to move different parts of the body. Remember, they can pull, cannot push. And also because we talk about bone in skeletal system, bone also, for example, bone marrow, they produce red and white blood cells. Very, very important. And last but not least, okay, Because we have bones, they act as a storehouse for minerals, calcium, and of course phosphorus, right? So three main function for the skeleton is support, protection, and movement. Kena ingat ya, tiga benda sebab pernah keluar soalan, they will ask you the list three main function of skeleton, tiga markah. Kalau list out state, dia minta short form sahaja. Support, protection, and movement ya. So, in our study, like mentioned just now, animal physiology, we talk about animal from the most basic to the most complex, right? So we're going to go through what type of skeleton is found in the most simplest to the most complex form. So as you all know already, three main function of a skeleton: support, protection, and movement. Saya banyak kali ulang balik ya. So types and function lain. Function is the role, okay? Whereas types, okay, different types. For example, list the type of nitrogenous waste, which I mentioned earlier in excretory system. You all remember back, right? So now we go to skeleton pula. So there are three main types of skeleton, which are hydrostatic skeleton, okay? And then we have the exoskeleton, right? And also we have the, what else again? We have the endoskeleton, alright? Okay. So hydrostatic skeleton, okay, basically comprised of what? Usually they consist of fluid, okay, held under pressure in a closed body compartment. So normally found in most cnidarian, flatworms, nematodes, and also annelids. Still considered as basic, simple type of animal. So usually they have hydrostatic skeleton, means they are mostly made of fluid, fluid-filled compartment. So this is how, because why I kept one example for the earthworm. How do they move? Okay, basically, they use the hydrostatic skeleton for peristalsis. Concept sama macam peristalsis, the way you swallow your food. So the type of movement and length they produce by rhythmic waves of muscle contraction. So if you cut a cross section of this earthworm, you can see there is what they call two types of muscle, which is longitudinal muscle and the circular muscle. So when they need to do is to contract and to relax, that's why they can move forward. Alright? The next one is exoskeleton. So exoskeleton is a hard encasement, usually deposited on the surface of the animal, right? Different than the hydroskeleton just now. So exoskeleton, they are found in most mollusks and arthropods. So this are, for example, like crabs. For example, like the spiders, insects. Normally they have exoskeleton. So for, if you can recall back in your part 1, when you recall back about study of protein, so remember back why exoskeletons are formed, in carbohydrates, sorry, not in protein. And then the one in mollusks, for example, okay, usually they have what they call name as calcium carbonate shell, secreted by the mantle or the sheet-like extension of the body wall. They can even secrete their own shell. So these are normally found in, like, for example, the snail and other types of animals in that category. Last but not least, we have the endoskeleton. This normally consists of hard supporting element, which is the bone. And these bones are buried within the soft tissue of an animal. So we are categorized at that part because we have these features. And endoskeletons, for example, also can be found in sponges, echinoderm, and chordates. Chordates is our category, which have backbones. So the mammalian skeleton is built from more than 200 bones. Okay, some fused together and others connected at joints by ligaments that allow freedom of movement. Okay, so in human skeleton, if you can recall back your form 4, form 5, right? You did study a little bit about the parts of the important bones in the skeleton, right? So roughly we'll look at the skull. Everybody knows the skull, right? And then we have the clavicle right in front of you, okay? And then you have the scapula, like at the shoulder bone there, shoulder bone, right? And then you have the sternum, okay, which is front, located in the front, which joined with the ribs, okay? And then you have your hand, which consists of humerus, right? And then you have also the radius and ulna, which is still on the part of the hand, right? And then you have the carpal lah. Carpal is the one that the wrist, okay, dekat dia punya joint, hand joint. And then you have the phalanx, okay, and the metacarpal. Metacarpal is near the mid of your hand, and then your fingers is the phalanx. And then for the leg, or part of the leg, okay, we have the femur, okay, and then we have the patella, lutut there, and then you have the tibia and fibula, and then you have the tarsals, and then you have the metatarsals and phalanx. Phalanx is for the finger leg, projection, okay. And then for the backbone, we call it as vertebra, alright. Now, there are many types of joints that allow movement. So we have different types. We call it bell and socket joint, which normally found at the shoulder, okay, and also for humerus, and also which the one the shoulder normally joins to the humerus, and then the femur that joins to the pelvic, and they use the joints, and then another one is the hinge joints. Hinge joints normally located between the humerus and the head of your ulna, near your siku, kat siku situ. And then last, the pivot joint is the one that normally rotate our forearm of the elbow, and also that move our head from side to side. That is the pivot joint. So there are many types of important joints that allow us for movement. So if you look carefully on the physical support line, now how does a big, huge animal move on land? How do they move? With the help of your muscles and tendon. Beside with the skeleton. Sebab tu kena ingat balik 3 fungsi utama tu. So muscle moves skeletal parts by contracting. The word here is that it always contract. The muscle must contract. If the muscle does not contract, it does not move. When it doesn't move, then you have problems later on. Okay? Now, if you can recall back, I give you a scenario. If you still remember, we have the first astronaut that went to space. Syed Musafar, kan? If you still can recall him, when he went out to the space and then came back a week later, he could not move. Remember? And he has to stay in what they call incubation center for almost less than a month. Then he can move around. The reason why, because when you are in the space, when there is anti-gravity, your muscle does not work out, right? So it does not contract. When it does not contract, so there's no movement, it will not work out. So what happens when after a week or a few days in the space and then you come back from non-anti-gravity to gravity? So imagine. Sebab tu kena exercise. Alright? So skeletal muscles are attached to the skeleton in antagonistic pairs, which each member of the pair working against each other. Okay, one contract, one relax. Okay, concept here. So this is what happened. For example, if one bicep contract, so your tricep will be relaxed. So this is how to do your forearm flexors. Tunjuk your muscle kan. Cik mak sado-sado nak cari bicep. Dia kena buat benda tu, right? Okay, same goes with the animal like the grasshopper. They also do that, but they use the word extensor muscle or flexor muscle. So muscle types, okay, as we all know is now, we have already gone through the function. Now we go very deep into the ultrastructure later on. So muscle types, but basically I add this a little bit because you have to recall back what you have learned in part 1, especially on histology, on tissues. So based on structure and function, okay, muscle tissue can be classified into 3 types. If you still can recall, there are cardiac, muscle, smooth muscle, as well as skeletal muscle. So as you all know already, muscle only do one thing, which is to contract. Means to shorten it. So muscle tissue, in order to make sure that achieve or that fulfill the requirement as a muscle, it has 4 main categories, 4 main properties. Means it has to have the ability to respond to stimuli. Okay, means its ability, its ability to contract. Okay, and then its ability to stretch without tearing. Okay, because sometimes if let's say if we want to design bioengineering in the future, you want to design muscle for those who cannot move, or want to make a piece of muscle. Okay, how you want to make this, like for example those yang paralyzed atau yang tak ada kaki, you nak buat satu prosthetic arm, prosthetic leg yang betul-betul macam manusia, betul-betul yang ada muscle tu, macam mana? So nak design, nak form muscle, kena ada 4 ni. Okay, able to respond to stimuli, able to contract, able to be stretched without tearing, and also able to return to its normal shape. Kalau dapat jumpa, okay, you kan dapat jumpa satu chemical ke satu physical form yang boleh memenuhi 4 benda ni, you can become a good inventor, innovator untuk buat kaki palsu ataupun tangan palsu in that case. So these are just example or recall balik apa you belajar tentang smooth muscle, cardiac muscle dengan skeletal muscle ya. I will not go this further because you have learned this already. But what I want you to recall is just the physiological aspect. You must know that every certain parts of your organ they have muscle. What is the function muscle is to contract. Ingat itu Now, muscle movement, as you all know already, we have skeletal muscle. So they are a type of muscle that used to move. Meaning that usually like bicep or tricep, they need to move the lower arm, and in order to move the lower arm, they are attached to the bone by tendons. So you have to remember because in this case we divided into two types, tendon and ligament. So kena tahu beza apa beza tendon, apa beza ligament. Tu sebab pernah dengar kan ligament tear tu maksudnya apa, tendon tu maksudnya apa. So kena tahu Alright. Bone to bone, they are joined by tendon. Okay, but if ligament, okay, they attach bone to other bone to another parts. Okay, so kena tahu beza For example, if you look at this one, so ligament bind bone to bone, tendon bind muscle to bone. Ingat tu, apa beza dia, right? So tendon bind muscle to bone, whereas ligament bind bone to bone. Itu beza. Okay, kena ingat Alright. So bicep, tricep, you dah biasa have learned this already since in your form 4, form 5, right? So either one, they work as contract, another one will relax. So what do they call themselves as? Antagonistic pair. So please get used to the term antagonistic. Antagonistic means berlawan, tapi dia berpasangan. One do the contract, one do the relax. When the other one become relaxed, nak jadi relax, then the other one pula jadi contract. Kena ingat So they can only pull, right? They can't push. Kena ingat term tu. So jangan tulis push walaupun niat dia nak tulis pull. Okay, we remember because kita second language user Alright. So when your bicep contract, your tricep relax. So kena ada tahu antagonistically they work together Okay. So I'm not going to go to this one because we have learned this already. Okay. Now, just to show you about the organization of your skeletal muscle, okay? Because we're going to learn about the ultrastructure. Everybody remember what is ultrastructure? You go zoom in. You want to look at the nano level, means at the electron, more at the very minute level. So basically, you all know already, skeletal muscle composed of muscle fascicles. Okay. And this muscle fascicles composed of muscle fiber. So muscle fiber is analoginya adalah macam sel. Cell level kena ingat. Alright. And this muscle fiber can be divided into few parts. Macam sel ni boleh bagi banyak jenis, ada banyak jenis organel. So kita tengok apa dia satu-satu But what I want to show this picture is for you to familiarize with the parts. Because usually you need to draw. So kalau boleh, you kena practice, buat revision, lukis. Jangan tak lukis nanti saya tunjuk banyak gambar lepas ni So what I want you to familiarize is the parts. They are what they call known as sarcolemma, T-tubules, sarcoplasm, and multiple nuclei. Remember tadi? Banyak jenis, dia bukan satu sel, satu nucleus. Can be banyak jenis nucleus dalam satu area And in sarcoplasm, we don't use cytoplasm, but it is a type of plasm, right? Okay. From the sarcoplasm, you have again what parts are there found in the sarcoplasm. We have what they call the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Dia macam sama macam endoplasmic reticulum, tapi lain sikit sebab dia khusus untuk muscle, right? And then we have the myofibril, okay, mitochondria. And of course glycogen granule. So kena ingat balik, benda ni semua ada dalam muscle which is in sarcoplasm. Sarcoplasm of the muscle fiber So myofibril ni, okay, again we will look at the atomic level. Kita boleh molecular level. Punya ada macam-macam lagi. Ada apa? We have troponin, actin, tropomycin, mycin, titin, and nebulin. Tapi at your level, remember, you belajar, ingat tak? Kalau ikut nasi lemak level, kita hanya belajar dua je. Actin dengan myosin. So that is why, So at this point pun masih, we study in these two, actin and myosin. But when you go to degree level one day, when you go study animal physio, you will go very further in all this. Okay. So just to make sure that you remember which is which, actin, they are known as thin filament. Myosin, they are known as thick filament. Right? And so they organize as what? And all these organized call themselves as sarcomere. Okay, kena tulis make sure the spelling is correct. S-A-R-C-O-M-E-R. Sarcomere. Okay. Sebab nanti kalau ada keluar soalan, draw a diagram of a sarcomere in muscle. Kena tahu lah, kena make out of these things. So we have to remember. Right. So a muscle fiber, like a muscle cell, it consists of this. So tu ada video, saya akan tunjuk. I ada attach so that everybody can see what other video looks like. Betul tak? Which I have already shown earlier on, right? So you should be able to see. So what we learn, if you zoom in from this bone that attached, from the muscle attached to the bone by a tendon. So let's say you cut this muscle, you can see they have these holes around banyak kan. So these are all made of, orang kata urat muscle tu tersebut. So one whole bunch ni panggil fascicle. Dalam fascicle lagi potong lagi, tengok lagi ada muscle. Dia panggil satu muscle fiber known as muscle cell. So daripada satu batang tu, bila secara longitudinal, tengok all the parts ada. Okay, you have the nucleus, which is not in order. You have the mitochondria, you have the sarcoplasm, okay, and then from the plasma membrane as well, right? And then from the sarcoplasm, it can be divided further and further. Betul kan? So these are the ones that I want you to look at. And more and more pictures for you to look familiarize. Yes, it is very comprehensive, but you have to get used to it. Sometimes dalam gambar, pernah sekali keluar satu soalan, minta you lukis. Yes, pernah. Correct? So you have to be very careful. Okay, kena tengok ya. So again, I repeat balik. You have to know which one is which. Okay, so muscle fiber, they are the muscle cell. They comprise of all this. And if you zoom in balik, you tengok satu sarcomere tu, you have the actin myofilament with the myosin myofilament. And then you also familiarize with the term such as ZDs atau ZDs dengan this what they call cross bridges between myosin and the actin. Nanti kita tengok in detail ya. So this is very important. I don't put the stars sebab takut tak muat punya bintang dia. So seperti biasa kita belajar structure and function, right? So kena tulis apa structure sarcolemma, macam mana rupa dia, dan apa dia punya fungsi dia. Okay, what is it? So in this case is to show you the description of the parts. Like sarcolemma is the plasma lemma of the muscle cell. It is at the cell membrane, okay, attached to the basement membrane. Then we have the sarcoplasm. It is a cytoplasm of muscle, except for the myofibril. We exclude that because myofibril special sikit, tapi dia ada kat tepi tu. Alright. Sarcoplasmic reticulum is a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Epimysium, thick layer of the connective tissue. Perimysium, that separate the bundle of muscle cell tadi, called fascicles. So fascicle is the bundle of muscle cell. And lastly, amylomyosin. Yang ni semua term-term nanti you akan belajar masa dekat video tu yang saya dah attach dekat Google Classroom ya. So skeletal muscle, they are made up of muscle fiber. Okay? So all these are repetition back. Alright? So I just want to tell you that. Just make sure that you're familiar with the labeling. Alright? So in this case, macam contohnya, bits of sarcolemma fall inward across the muscle fiber. And then you have, and they stick into sarcoplasm. And then from there are folds, ada lipatan dipanggil transverse tubule. Transverse tubule, what does it do? Basically to help to spread the electrical impulses throughout the sarcoplasm. Ni macam contoh lah yang electrical impulse yang you dapat ni. Bila nak gerakkan tangan tu macam mana? Dia perlukan electric impulse cepat-cepat sampai dekat masa tu contract. Macam kita pegang air panas, kettle panas tu. Macam mana tu? So that is the same picture lah. Dia hanya kena fast forward je. Right? So microstructure muscle fiber, these are the terms that you need to get used to here. So in sarcolemma, you have muscle cell membrane, and of course you have the myofibril. Okay, and of course what is found in the sarcoplasm. Okay, ini gambar di balik. So kalau tengok familiar, what I want from this case is that you need to look at the sarcomere level. Please identify apa dia A band, okay, I band dengan ZD. So ZD is the kata parts by parts, macam segment, alright. A band is in between, yang kat tengah-tengah mana tu, alright. Then your I band is normally located near the ZD tadi, so this is why. Why is it very important? Because you want to see how does this band becomes shorter and longer from there, especially when there's contraction of muscle happen. So, sarcomere, start, kena ingat Z line is the end of each sarcomere, okay, where your actin filament will anchor to. A band, okay, is a dark band contain thick myosin filament. I band is the light band, okay, that contain thin actin filament. We have the M line to show the middle part. H zone is to show only the myosin filament. Kena ingat how. Sebab itulah bila tengok labeling kena tahu. Ini adalah gambaran secara luar. Kalau you potong kat dalam, tengok apa rupa dia, ni can see. How does it look like? Okay. Still remember apa dia H zone, M line, A band, I band. So tu kena ingat So for this how does it look like? Kalau you all boleh level lukis macam ni pun dah cukup bagus ya. Pernah keluar dalam soalan? Yes, pernah keluar. Ya, kena lukis betul. Ingat So how does the muscle contraction occur? So basically, that I mentioned just now, when the electrical impulses, bila dah sampai spread out to the muscle, apa dia buat seterusnya? Dari situlah you kena ingat balik So they have what they call the neuromuscular junction. This is where the motor neuron meets the muscle fiber. Remember, there's still a gap there, macam synapse, okay? But in this case, they call the gap there as neuromuscular cleft. So at the motor end plate there, this is where the pocket form around the motor neuron by the sarcolemma, and that is where acetylcholine will be released from the motor neuron, and this will cause what they call the end plate potential, EPP, which needs to depolarize the muscle fiber, bagi trigger. Okay, ini contohnya. So neuromuscular junction, kena faham, because pernah keluar soalan juga tanya, what is neuromuscular junction? Just remember, it's the neuron that located very near to the muscle tissue. From there, how does it detect? Because it acts like konsep yang ada synapse tu. Sama je serupa dia. Okay, so basically, this paragraph, the last one paragraph here is very, very important. Okay, a nerve impulse travels from neuromuscular junction along the sarcolemma. So this I ask you to remember the parts again. Down to the T-tubule, stimulate calcium release from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which will allow your thin filament to slide to the center of the sarcomere, causing it to become shortened and the muscle to contract. So ini memang biasa dapat 3-4 markah kat sini. So kena tahu So saya baca soalan yang betul ya. So muscle contraction follow one important model, which is called sliding filament model. Benda belajar ni semua dekat form 4, form 5 dah ada. Hanya kena rewind balik, and then you kena elaborate lebih sikit. Ingat nama selamat konsep ya. So what happens during this in this model? It says that muscle shortening will occur due to the movement of what? Due to the movement of actin filament over the myosin filament. Okay, and this will form what? Will form what they known as cross bridges. Okay, kalau soalan keluar macam ni, you tak tulis cross bridges, tolak markah. Okay, hilang markah ya. So you must mention when you talk about sliding filament model, it form cross bridges between who? actin and myosin filament. If you say just form cross bridges pun tolak markah. You didn't mention siapa. Okay. And what happened towards the end? It reduced the distance between the Z line just now. Okay. Of the sarcomere. So this is a very important slide. And then it's able to you to answer question. Now, when you answer question, kena check. Kalau soalan tu perlu dah markah, this is not enough. Okay, kita akan tengok apa yang soalan-soalan yang boleh buat dalam 6 markah ya. Now, this is how it looks like when it comes to picture. Right? This is when it is not contract occur. But once contraction occur, you can see at number 4. So you can see that the band starts to get in closer. Alright? So that's why pernah keluar dalam soalan minta lukis. Yeah. Lukis, sometimes they give one scenario when it's at rest. How do you want to draw when it's during the contraction? Okay. So kena lukis, you can see the air band starts to get closer. Okay. The Z band goes inside. So this is very important. You can see now there's overlap between the actin and the myosin filament. Yeah. So myosin filament have globular head, they are hinge. Hinge tu macam you kan pernah tengok golf club kan? Dia punya golf punya batang golf tu kat ujung tu the hinge. Macam cangkuk tu. So they can move back and forth. So each myosin head has a binding site for actin and a binding site for ATP. Satu untuk lekat dekat actin, satu lagi untuk lekatkan ATP. So they need energy. That's why mitochondria is there. Kalau mitochondria tak ada kat sana, there's no energy, then how you want to contract your muscle? Susah kan? So actin filament have binding site for myosin head called actin myosin binding head site. So you have two other proteins. Ni lebih lah ni kata nasi lemak ekstra lebihan sambal tu. Okay. Lauk lapah dia. Dia kena tambah lagi dia punya tu So two other protein are found between actin filament and these are normally attached to each other and they help myofilament to move past each other. Okay. So in resting, when there is no stimulation occur, the muscle and the actin myosin binding site is blocked by tropomyosin. Okay. And this is held by, in place by troponin. So ada benda yang block. Bila ada block, benda tu tak boleh keluar. Okay. So that means benda tu hook tak boleh nak cangkuk. So myofilament cannot slide past each other. Because why? Because the myosin head cannot bind to the actin. Okay. So there's it blocks. Okay, so this is how when cross bridge formation in muscle contraction occur. Kau nampak because why? When they open, so that's why ada space, barulah benda tu boleh cangkuk ya. Ada gambar video which I've already given. So you watch the video and you can understand how do they do the cross bridge formation ya. So, ini yang saya nak tunjuk. Tadi beza tadi yang 3 point saja kan. Yang ni 5 point which come to more to 6 marks. So kena faham apa macam mana nak markah yang sebanyaknya tu. Tu cara nak tulis So in this case you have to you can see interaction between myosin actin pull the actin filament toward the center sarcomere. The myosin head has an ATP binding site. So ATP will bind to myosin head, hydrolyze ATP to ADP plus P, and then coax into its high energy form formation, pointing away from the center sarcomere and towards the ZDs. So when there is calcium, your myosin head will be unblocked, and so it can form cross bridges because of calcium ada, alright? Sebab tu kenapa kita kena makan kalsium. So the myosin head relax into their low energy conformation, pulling the actin filament toward the center sarcomere. So it causes the sarcomere become shortened. So contraction occur, right? At this point, your ADP and P will be released, and then ATP can bind to the myosin head again. So this goes on and on like a cycle. Okay, macam ni. Sebab kadang-kadang ada soalan minta contohnya buat sliding filament teori macam mana. So you kena tulis apa konsep dia. It can be a cycle form, you can draw. Alright. So as a muscle contract, what happened to the muscle sarcomere tadi? The ZDs come close together. The width of your I band decreases. The width of your H zone also decreases. However, the A band does not change. Ni yang 4 markah, 4 point So kena faham If it needs to grow, yes, by showing a diagram of sarcomere, you may need to draw this. So as the muscle is stretched, what will happen? The width of I band and H bone increases. But again, there's no change in the width of the air band because memang dia dah set. Benda ni tak berubah dekat air band ya. Sebab tu tempat yang cangkutnya actin filament tadi ya. Okay, so this is how contraction occur at the skeletal muscle fiber, especially bila ada neuromuscular junction ya. So sebab tu satu-satu kena explain kat sini. Contohnya bila acetylcholine released by synaptic terminal diffuse across the synaptic cleft, it will bind to the receptor protein and on the muscle fiber, plasma membrane will trigger an action potential at the muscle fiber. Okay, so this will action potential will be propagated along the plasma and also down the T-tubule. Sebab tu penting ada peranan T-tubule tadi yang mention just now. And then from this action potential will also trigger calcium release, okay, from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So that's why calcium tu penting sebab adanya sarcoplasmic reticulum tadi. Alright. So when they release the calcium, what will happen? Remember just now when we talk about studying filament cycle tadi? So this calcium will bind to the troponin, and then what happen? It will change shape, remove the blocking action, so that it can expose the head, so that the myosin head can attach it. So that's why myosin can form cross bridges to the actin, and they can pull. Okay. In this case, in this pulling, the actin filament forward towards the center of the sarcomere. This is when there is ATP. Alright. So there was like the filament. Now, I know you also madam, bukan ke muscle cannot pull? Yes, muscle secara keseluruhan. Yang ni minor, kecil. Ini dari bahagian myofilament. Beza kena ingat ya. Alright, so this is all the explanation further ya. So what happened? Calcium will be removed again by active transport and goes back to the sarcoplasmic endoplasmic, pergi ke sarcoplasmic reticulum balik. And then tropomyosin will block the head again. So this goes on and on. Okay, right. So kalau 7 point, it comes for 6 marks for a question. How does contraction in skeletal muscle fiber occur? Okay. Bila dia tulis muscle fiber occur ni, maksudnya daripada mula dia kena tulis tentang how the electrical impulses bergerak daripada neuron sampailah dekat muscle fiber tu. Kat situ ya. Kena ingat Right. So neural control muscle tension, okay, usually can be graded. So nowadays we see how do the Olympic athletes when they want to run or they want to do something, to gain Olympic medal, nak menang, okay, they must know how to manipulate their muscle. So contraction of one muscle can be graded means we can voluntarily alter the extent and strength of its contraction. So you can actually do it. So there are two basic mechanisms. How to do it is that by varying the number of fibers that contract. Fibers tu yang muscle fiber tadi tu, like kita boleh tengok and also varying the rate at which muscle fibers are stimulated. From there, this is how we are able to study. Sebab tu orang kata kenapa ada orang boleh lari marathon, ada orang boleh lari yang macam Usain Bolt, 100 meters. Manusia terpantas di dunia. So these are the thing. So we are going to look at it, how does it work. This is all additional. Okay, tak nak cerita ni. So motor unit consists single motor neuron that all muscle fiber it controls. Okay, so usually it depends on this motor neuron, it will result in stronger contraction ya. So term-term ni kena faham. So siapa yang akan belajar pasal animal physiology ataupun dalam sains sukan berkenaan tentang benda ni, dia kan tahu konsep-konsep ni ya. So for example, twitch means what? Means a single action potential occur in a motor neuron. So sometimes can be repeatedly delivered action potential. Sebab tu bila term action potential, you boleh ingat balik apa you belajar dalam nervous system hari tu they can produce a graded contraction by summation. Macam ni contohnya dalam gambar graf ni. Okay, if you sum it all, it boleh naik bertambah-tambah. Tetapi pada satu tahap, bila dia terlalu tinggi sangat, there will be what the case called tetanus. Tetanus means where it becomes a sustained contraction. Means that it becomes a volley of action potential. Means dia terlalu banyak sangat, itulah menyebabkan, pernah tengok kan, kekejangan, kejang. Tetanus itu. Alright? Okay, now, if you look at this one, I'd like to show you the twitch just now can be two types. Okay, based on the, can be two types based on types of muscle fiber. Okay, sebab tu, macam saya bagi contoh, orang yang boleh lari marathon dengan orang yang boleh lari 100 meter berbeza dari segi muscle fiber dia. Orang dah kaji Mak Saleh dah kaji. Peringkat kita baru kita terima info macam tu. Okay, so that's why saya kesian siapa-siapa yang duduk pergi kat sekolah tu, kalau nampak you terisi, kat situlah you lari 100 meter, 400 meter sampai 1000 meter boleh lari. Tapi kadang-kadang tak boleh menang semua, betul tak? Sebab dia depend on your muscle fiber. Okay, now we look at these two important muscle fiber which produce different type of twitch. Okay, slow twitch, when the muscle fibers usually contract very slowly. This is very important when you use for posture, those and in the back. And these are normally good for those who are going to do for endurance activity. Contohnya maintaining posture. Macam orang yang buat ballet, buat macam yang gymnastics semua tu. These are very good. Okay. And of course, long distance running, yang marathon. So, biasanya kalau orang nak test, orang tu bagus dalam apa bidang, dia kena tengok muscle fiber dia. Okay. Whereas for fast twitch is different, it's the opposite. Kalau tengok fast twitch ni, whereby the muscle fiber has to contract very quickly. And these are normally for fast movement, for example like the eyes and legs. These are very good for short bursts of speed and power. Sebab tu kalau macam eye movement, siapa yang buat archery tu, dia punya eye ni must be very very fast. Dia cepat fokus, dia boleh cepat. Contohnya yang shooting tu, macam shooting tu kan, dia pandai tengok terus saya tembak, especially yang flying disc tu kan, and of course sprinting, yang running tu, and also yang angkat berat tu. Okay, so kena tengok tahu, sebab tu lain orang lain dia punya muscle fiber, sebab dia kan produce different type of twitch. So that's why Mak Saleh kenapa mereka menang banyak medal ni, sebab mereka belajar benda ni. So that's why hopefully our sport science in Malaysia pun is going very advanced. Okay, so that's why hopefully maybe some of you can go into that field if you all interested. Okay, then we go further with, tadi ada banyak term kan, sambung balik slow twitch just now can work for a long time without getting tired. Sebab tu dia sesuai untuk orang yang mau kerja marathon running tadi, right? Because they don't get tired very easily. And if you look carefully, when they do a test, macam ambil biopsy, ambil muscle check, then they found out the muscle are reddish color and they are rich in myoglobin. Myoglobin is a type of protein, macam respiratory pigment, macam hemoglobin, tapi dia tangkap oksigen, dia store oksigen dengan kuat, dengan banyak. Fast twitch, very tired easily. Sebab tu tengok bila orang lari yang 100 meters, pecut lari memang cepat, bila sampai pancit terus. Betul kan? Sebab dia very very fast, very tired very easily. Sebab dia energy they release very quickly. Okay, and usually the muscle, okay, if you look back, the color is very white. Okay, and they do not store myoglobin. So that's why ni contoh lah. You can see Now, after we look at the types of twitch, okay, and also look at the type of muscle fiber, we also look at diseases and disorder of this system. So ada banyak jenis. Contohnya scoliosis. Okay, maybe some of you did not notice. Scoliosis is a curvature on the backbone, but it is curved sideways. Bukan front way, back way, tak ada. Sideway. And then we have the carpal tunnel syndrome. Nowadays, because kita ODL kan, banyak guna komputer. So, siapa-siapa yang suka main game, suka buat kerja, gunakan mouse tu, they will eventually form what they call as carpal tunnel syndrome. Okay, carpal is where the carpal bone dekat wrist tu, dengan metacarpal tu. Okay, Tanner is a name of a person lah who found this syndrome lah. Biasalah kan. Sebab biasa kalau siapa jadi doktor ni, dia jumpa apa si disease tu, nama dia kat situ je. Alright. And then you have a myasthenia gravis. Dia sama ni berlaku pada muka seseorang tu I will show you this later on. And then Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Okay, biasanya berlaku pada kanak-kanak. Right. And arthritis. Tangan selalu berlaku pada elderly ya. Okay. So myasthenia gravis, saya tunjuk beberapa ni sebab pernah call dalam exam. Dia tunjuk pasal kenapa. Myasthenia gravis ni is not what they call muscular disease secara amnya. So biasanya dia punya output, effect dia jadi macam tu is actually caused by autoimmune disorder. So if your immune system haywire, something wrong, boleh jadi myasthenia gravis. Sebab apa? These are the one that normally affect your neuromuscular junction. Contohnya macam ni lah. Bila ada membrane damage dekat you punya area dekat neuromuscular junction, itulah akibatnya So patient we have myasthenia gravis, usually they have only 20% of SEH. Okay, sikit je. So that's why the loss of this is because of your antibody which is directed against the receptor. Dia tutup. Bila dia block, tak cukup acetylcholine untuk buat kerja, sebab itulah yang kata action potential tak berjalan dengan lancar. Still remember that? Okay. Alright. Macam mata orang kalau ikutkan seseorang tu, rupa dia lain sedikit. Duchenne in this way normally because of genetic. It's because deal with this X-linked disorder. And selalunya berlaku pada lelaki. Perempuan usually dia pembawa and it cause all throughout. Dia tak kira apa-apa pun kaum dia sama je. Benda berlaku macam mana? It's because there is an absence of dystrophin, a type of protein that normally keep the muscle cell intact. So bayangkan, ingat tadi bila you tengok tadi ultrastructure of the muscle tadi, dia ada satu mycelium kan yang kumpul, yang balutkan muscle cell secara rapat-rapat kan. Yang ni tak ada. So bila dia tak ada, so dia buat muscle cell jadi damage and weak over time. Sebab tu mereka normally, these people, they do not survive very later stage of age. By the time they reach their teenage, usually they don't grow taller and they have to use crutch to move around. And even sometimes they need to use stroller already, but they are wheelchair bound. So these are the ones that look like this. Okay.